But imagination is not all what is needed. So let me tell a few things. Have you seen both recordings? One
Yes,
about the application and the first one about the technology. Have you seen both of them
I
or only
have.
one?
Yeah. No, two.
Oh, great. So you are prepared. However, if you have seen it for the first time, it's not easy to grasp all the information because there are too much. First, I like very much what you said that you work with adults because this method was specially developed for adults.
Mm,
And a funny thing, because children don't need it. What actually
mm,
children do, they do it automatically. They use my method because children do subconsciously learn any language and everything.
Yes.
mm.
Adults lose that ability. Now, if you think I would not repeat the whole idea or technology or something, but I will give you just in a nutshell that we provide a new definition what means to learn a language.
Mm.
It's a completely different story. Before giving you that definition, I would like to ask you a question. And please provide the answer irrespective if you know the answer or you don't. Just say the answer immediately. That means
Yep.
intuitive answer. In which
Hmm.
language do you think?
Ah, we think in pictures. We think in images, we think in symbols, we think in feelings. And feelings or emotions are the language of the subconscious. So if I said to a student, think of your car, instantly a picture of their car would pop up in their mind, or their dog or whatever. We don't see the word in our mind. So we think in the language of thinking. But
That's
because
absolutely correct.
because
And
it's because it's
very few teachers actually understand it. And
mm,
more than that, there is a scientific name for this language. Steven
mentally
Pinker from MIT has called this language Mentalis.
mm, mm,
Now, so the new definition of the language, we all, irrespective of how many languages we speak,
mm,
we have only one language of thoughts,
mm,
and that is symbols and feelings.
mm,
In our native language, the language of thoughts automatically, as we were kids, is wired together with words of the native language, and
mm,
it created the illusion that we think in the native language. No, we cannot think in words. We can think only in symbols. And
mm.
symbol is not an image, is not a picture, by the way. It's much more
Oh, okay.
complex
Mm,
because a symbol is something which combines everything. If I
mm-hmm.
say mom, the first symbol which we all form, and by the way, we form that symbol inside of the womb of our mother. And it is a combination of everything:
Mm,
love, warmth, security, and blah, blah, blah.
mm.
It's an image of what mother means.
Yeah, so
So
it's a concept.
it's a concept which we create by living, our experience created. What that means, that every person has only one language of thoughts.
Mm,
Now, our objective in learning a new language is to combine or wire the symbols of language of thoughts, which we already have, to
mm,
the new words of a new language.
mm.
And
Well, I
because
always say, I always say, go on.
subconscious does not know words, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
Subconscious knows only symbols and images. So when we do it subconsciously, And here the issue, which was never resolved before. 50 years ago, Stefan Krashen tried and he explained that his method is subconscious training. It was not, because
mm,
he could not define what is necessary to create these environments for subconscious training. I
mm,
stumbled upon it by pure chance because I have PhD in science, but I also work as simultaneous interpreter. And while
mm,
simultaneous interpretation, I was doing all those experiments, and I've discovered that if you do three actions at the same time, simultaneously reading, speaking, and listening, you cannot use your conscious anymore. And the ingrained habit of thinking in the native language, it is ingrained into 95% of people.
mm,
And by the way, you have mentioned at the beginning that people do not believe that they can learn a foreign language. They're absolutely right. They cannot. Only
mm,
5% can learn a foreign language. Those who do not have, who somehow it's a mystery. They preserve their visualization ability to such an extent that when they hear a new word, etc., they visualize it. They do not
mm,
connect it to the word in the native language. But 95% cannot do it, and that's why they fail. So they're not
mm,
responsible. We are responsible as teachers
mm,
because we teach them wrong way. Now, it's in a new definition, it's a different story. We connect what we know with something which we don't know, and necessary mandatory condition, we have to turn off our conscious, because otherwise we will connect those words to the words in the native language. This cross translation is the main barrier to acquiring a foreign language.
mm. Knowledge, which
Yes,
is
because
the learning.
here is another part is acting. Because we before that we knew, and our philosophers knew about conscious and subconscious for a century, but we practically have very little knowledge about it. And even now, by the way, our knowledge only starts. And he was not, a neurosurgeon. He was actually a Nobel Prize winner in economics, and he studied the mind and how it acts on our decisions, and he discovered and describes much more. The subconscious is a completely different story. And if we
Mm,
work in subconscious part, but we do very often without paying attention to it. We drive a car subconsciously. We play musical instruments subconsciously. We do Tai Chi subconsciously. We do so many things subconsciously. But we didn't know the difference when we use conscious, when we use subconscious.
mm,
That's why we were lost. Now,
mm. I've,
if you
um,
know
I've
how
got a
to create the environment for subconscious training, your students will be self-training. So your
yes.
purpose is not to teach, not to
Mm,
explain, not to give examples or anything. Your teacher, as a teacher, actually you're not teacher anymore. You are a
mm,
guide, a coach who will show to your students how to use this application. And
mm,
this application can be used in class, after the class, online,
mm,
after offline, and even after they completed their learning with you, they continue using it because it has such a wonderful option as to create their own lessons. And if you want to
mm,
become a nurse or an accountant, you will create all your lessons in English, and you will acquire the language by using the built-in 11 drills. You
mm.
understand now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It just fits in so well because I'd been, as I said, the reason or the way I found your work and your application was I was doing some research for my own, because I'm going to be teaching some Vietnamese students online shortly. And I did it last year. I wasn't happy with it. I didn't enjoy it. I don't think the students got much out of it because it was the, traditional method. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, not doing that again. So I had this idea that if they're going to learn anything, they've got to first change this idea that they can't learn.
Mhm.
So I was thinking, using my understanding from the personal development field and what I've learnt there, and I do mentor and more than coaching, but I do mentor. And, oh, excuse me, I just had COVID. So that you have to help them build a new idea of themselves as somebody who can learn English, can become fluent, can therefore do things that they couldn't do because their English isn't very good. So I was doing some research into the barriers to adult learning, and that's how I came across your work. And so is there anyone else in Australia who's
No,
picked this
nobody
ESL?
is in Australia using this
Woo.
method, so you will be the first. And if you wish, you can become, the person who will bring the whole method there as our representative. And keep in mind that it's much easier to teach and it's much better for students. And I can now, I remember that you sent me your questions and I can answer now your questions. Your first question was, do you think students would benefit from understanding how the mind works before they start using your method? For example, the difference between the way in which the conscious mind and subconscious mind works. And the answer is most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
They will need it because they will also be more receptive to your
Mm.
explanation because they understand that you introduced something they never heard of, never used, and they would never compare with their peers who try to learn. There's a website where you ask questions about how to learn English called Quora. There are thousands of
Mm.
questions. I have learned 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, and I don't speak, etc., etc. Now, from the very beginning, you can explain them why. We know now
Mm.
why. We were responsible for it. Now we want to change it. So
Mm.
you do it, but keep in mind that because if you are talking about Vietnamese students, and it is online a group, it could be done online. But first of all, you have to create the marketing materials in which you explain that
Mm.
it is a new method, what is new, how it works, and
Mm.
that they have to start by buying. If they don't have Android tablet, they have to buy Android tablet
Mm.
and download this application, which is only $5 on Google Play Store.
Mm.
And that's all what they need. Then it is your own their contract and agreement and marketing plan, how you make money.
Mm.
Because in this way, you can have much more students online because you do not work on one-on-one. By the way, it's very inefficient. It's an absolutely wrong way. And even
mm,
if you are rich and want to learn it quickly and you think you will work one-on-one quicker, no, you won't,
mm,
because you need to see how the others. To show you something, but I couldn't find it. There is a way that you buy such a very simple device. Sometimes they work each one separately, and because they work in headsets, by the way, this method does not allow you to work to use it as a background. No, you
no.
cannot, because it's
Mm,
subconscious training, and you have to use headsets because you turn off your conscious, so you do not analyze your pronunciation, and that's
mm,
why your accent would be the best. And you, since you are in headset, you don't hear, you don't interfere with other students, and it's a very unique option. Even if you have 20 students in class, each one of them is experiencing English.
yes,
It's
yeah.
unbelievable, because if now you have 20 students, well, only one of them is speaking 1 minute maximum, and then he is listening to the broken English of his students. It's
Mm,
nonsense. You cannot learn English in this environment. Leaflet, and here is some issue. It should be translated. Use Google Translate. Google
mhm.
Translate has a very good accuracy for most languages. I don't know about Vietnamese, but if you know somebody, somebody can check
Oh
it.
yeah, I've got contacts that would be able to translate well. I know leaders in the Vietnamese community in Melbourne.
You can actually do it Google Translate, and she will add it. It would be much cheaper for you then.
Mm,
And by the way, always marketing tools and leaflets must be always in two languages. If you work with, say, Vietnamese or Brazilian or Chinese, it should be in English and the other language. There are two
mm,
reasons. One is because in this way we can, you know, reprocess your materials, and will help you to create it. And we will like to check maybe, because at the same time we now, there's another school in Brazil who wants to do the same, what you want to do with Vietnamese. So maybe he will write part, you will write, we'll compare, we'll exchange,
mm,
etc. So we should always have both versions. There is also a hidden reason for it. When students see in their native language, they of course understand the idea and everything is great. However, when they see English, correct, perfect English, that's what they are dreaming about, they will believe you much more, because they need to see English. They need to see their future. And so
mm,
your marketing tools in two languages has a few different meanings. One, it brings to them the idea, explains how you will work with them, and
mm,
then it also shows to them their final objective. They will be
mm,
able to speak, to read, understand English as they do now.
mm.
Now,
'Cause one
when,
of the, sorry, can I just say something there?
yes,
One of the obstacles is that I'm thinking I must go back and read that bit in Norman Doidge's The Brain That Changes Itself about the mother or the native language, because that's your native language, as I understand it, is part of your subconscious conditioning.
definitely.
So because we're so comfortable with it, we will default to it. It's just, that's what our mind does. It goes for what it already knows and what it's comfortable, because because you're speaking that language subconsciously. Whereas when you're trying to learn another language, people perceive it as a struggle. They're not very good at it. Um, and I'd never thought about I knew that the native language is part of the subconscious conditioning or programming, but I didn't realise that in a second language learning situation, the native language is so big in the mind that it will resist other languages. So people, particularly the Vietnamese community, stay very much within their own area geographically. They do everything with other Vietnamese people. So the amount of exposure to English they have is tiny because they're not speaking it in their everyday life because they work with the other Vietnamese people, they shop in Vietnamese shops, so they don't have, or they're not seeking out many opportunities to
Peter,
speak English.
I understand your explanation. You explain me the current situation. Our
Mm,
purpose is disrupted, okay, and
yes,
we
yes,
can disrupt it. First of all, your explanation was not very accurate because you
oh,
follow the status quo belief, and I will tell you in which way you made a mistake.
yeah,
Subconscious does not use language. Subconscious does not know words. There's keep in mind, there's a very subtle difference. Subconscious thinks in language of thoughts and images and feelings. They are wired together to native language. That's why it seems to you, but actually it is not. So don't
mm,
be afraid of it. It is not a paramount barrier if you know that subconscious
mm,
doesn't use it, and you have to stop that conscious which does it. Your
mm.
conscious does it, not subconscious. And
Say that again.
your conscious does that trick when you are verbalizing. You go from one language, that is language of thoughts, to your native language. And this control is done consciously. Okay, that's
Okay,
why you speak Vietnamese, they always speak Vietnamese. But since we create a different environment, and they will very soon, their first lesson, even if they are beginners, the first
mm,
lesson starts, I can count to 10.
mm,
But in the same, by the way, never ever explain words. It's nonsense. Only a
mm,
sentence. And that's why I started. I can count to 10. But in the same first lesson, you will learn you live as long as you love. In
mm,
this lesson, we will go on a wonderful journey. Very
mm,
simple sentences, and we start learning as kids by sentences because we are adults. And when we stop your conscious, you can do it.
mm.
Okay? So,
Okay,
and by the way, I never explain to them that they should never use Vietnamese and explain. We use Google Translate. In Google Translate,
yeah,
in the program, there is an option that it will even read Vietnamese aloud. Never do it. So
no,
Vietnamese is needed to explain it, to visualize, and we translate, we show Vietnamese for 10 seconds if it is a word
mm,
or more. If it is a lesson, you can read Vietnamese lesson in Vietnamese first and visualize it.
yeah,
Then
yeah,
you work all the time in English.
mm,
Okay? And what that means, it's not, I explain you now, I think you understand it, it's great. However, your main purpose would be to help them in online classes to
mm,
overcome this transition from old learning. You help them to unlearn and start learning a new way,
mm.
subconscious training. You understand it?
So, so does your, by training them in English, doesn't that override their, you don't have to unlearn it, you just override it or overwrite it with the new way of learning?
You unlearn in a way that you do it differently. What happens after multiple repetition is the same as
Yeah.
driving a car. You start
Mm,
driving, you start speaking, and they
mm,
speak, by the way, very often it was funny. The very first students, they were looking behind them, looking who is talking. They couldn't understand who is talking. They never expected that they would be talking so fast. Of course, because it's simultaneous multiple repetition. So if you repeat it, and it's a lovely text, you live as
mm,
long as you love. I love my family. Everybody
mm,
loves you because you love everybody. That is the text of the first lesson. And of
mm,
course, they do it after multiple repetitions very soon automatically.
mm.
Now, your second question, how do you recommend a teacher instructor works with individuals and groups of students in a lesson? First of all, you are not a teacher or instructor anymore. You are a coach, you are a guide. As a coach, you are training them how to do self-training. It's a
Mm,
different, and
mm,
keep that very strongly in your mind.
mm.
And
I was
now you,
thinking more I was thinking more there about you've got, you've got say if you just take the first 10 lessons. So you've got the first 10 sessions uh, in the app, and there are, say, 10 drills for each lesson. I was thinking more of how do you guide, how do you help them chunk it? So you do drill 1 and 2 and then you work on 3 and 4 or something, or do you do 1 to 4 in one session? It was more an application.
I think after you watched my presentation about
Mm,
the application, and
mm.
you know about it much more, you can download it from Google Play Store
I've already done that, yeah.
and play with it. And then
Yeah,
what your question is, I can ask it very simple. It depends. First of all, what is everything is different in this application. For example, you may ask, is it for beginners, intermediate, or advanced? And my answer will surprise you. It doesn't matter.
mm,
It doesn't matter because it's a new method. It's training,
mm,
and you have to do this self-training. By the way, and there was an article in Science 15 or 20 years ago that if a person speaks fluently in a foreign language, he has a different speech center in his brain because
yes,
he needs to produce 3 words per second.
yeah,
Okay, the average in the world is 2.8 words per second. And you can do it only if you have a speech center in the brain, which
yeah,
controls you subconsciously. And you build this speech center in the brain by doing those simultaneous
yeah,
repetitions. So it doesn't matter. If you are a beginner, start with I can count to 10. But if they're beginners and they, with some difficulty, say I can count to 10, then teach them and now count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who will be the champion? Who will say it faster? So you
mm,
develop automatically. You develop this skill. Now,
yeah,
should you so now you know how to work with it. Now
yeah,
you ask, it is necessary for students to complete all the drills. The
mm,
answer is yes and no. For beginners, it's yes. If you are have some experience, or you are maybe intermediate students, but you still do it through translating from Vietnamese or from your native language, then probably the first lesson you may do it less repetitions. Or if you have done the drill, go to the next one. Or even
yeah,
omit if it looks very simple to you. It doesn't matter. What
mm.
matters is you experience authentic English all the time.
Does the trainer, does the person who's doing the training, i.e. me, do I wear headphones or not when I'm working with the students?
It depends. If you work with students and you see that some students have some difficulties in repetition or something, then you sit with him and you watch how he does, and you show him how to do, etc. You should not keep the headset all the time, because you are looking around. And it's the same, when I was learning how to drive, the instructor sat next to me and he told me what to do, how to do. That is your objective now, not to explain, because 99% of English teachers believe that they can teach English. They cannot. First of
Mm,
all, because you cannot transfer knowledge. Knowledge of language is not transferable. You can
mm,
transfer knowledge of medicine, accountant, or anything, except
history.
that what need motor skills. Speaking
Mm.
English is a motor skill. I speak without thinking. You see that I am doing it subconsciously, and it's not my native language.
No, this is just really, really exciting. It just really resonates with me. And I actually was going through some papers the other stuff and just chucked out anything to do with the old way I've been taught to teach English. Just chucked it out. I'm never going to look at that again.
I have now completed on my website. You have seen my website, right? And there's a link to my first ebook. I have completed the second ebook, which I
I've
can
read
share,
that.
which
I've
I
read you.
can share with you even before it is published. I think I didn't send it to you.
Oh, fantastic. I was going to ask you what I can read.
Yeah, and that's the second ebook has a number of articles, and which explain everything what I explain now to you in minute details, from looking from
Mm,
one or other point. For example, after you read it and know the details, you can answer on any question. For example, do you recommend? I ask you, as now a coach of subconscious training, do you recommend to do translations?
no, the only thing you want to have translated is the instructions, like how to use the app,
Yes,
um,
yes. No.
because that
You misunderstood my question. Do you recommend to students to do translation drills or work?
no.
No, absolutely correct. Heather, you are great in that, because most teachers they do not agree, because they in every language school in the world they do translation. That's in
Mm,
colleges the main work what they do is translate one technical text, and they think that they will understand it or will remember it. So no
mm,
translation, no fill-in exercise. It's nothing which
mm,
requires conscious comparison or thinking.
mm.
It's motor skills, so train them.
All right, so you're going to send me your book. That's the next thing. Jeanette, is there anything of yours that you would
Well,
recommend I
well,
read?
I have been thinking as to whether or not I should send you my book, but I don't want you to be confused. I think Arkady, you should see my book. It's now just about ready. As you are speaking here, I'm thinking, oh, I have to mention the app to the parents. I have a section I'm writing right now for parents and teachers and also for the workplace. And I'm thinking, yes, I can mention the subconscious training to them. I didn't really go into the subconscious training in the book because this is a beginning book, and this is and I need to fit in with the system. I have to, it's a transition that's very gradual. So I put in the competencies. I put in the 6 stages of holographic learning with anything. And so the app really does fit in there beautifully. Yeah, because you do it as you are needing it, kind of thing. It's not like, okay, it's time to do this, it's time to do that. No, you really work with your intuitive sense. So I'm going to ask Arkady to take a look at the book, because I don't want you to be confused. And if Arkady says yes, and if you feel good about everything that Arkady has sent you, and you feel like, yes, I understand, then I can send you my book, and then you'll see how it does fit in.
We see.
Yeah.
I picked up on when you were talking about workplace, because in Australia we have a lot of people who don't speak English as their first language, either already working or wanting to work in the aged care industry, for want of a better word. I hate the word industry, but sector, let's call it. But their English isn't they're not fluent in English to the point where the people that they are looking after can understand them. Their colleagues can understand them, and they can understand their colleagues. So you're putting them in a situation where they don't have enough language to do their job. So they've got to go off and learn their English, but the way we're doing it is just so slow and cumbersome. And honestly, my neighbour is studying, in the system that we have here. There's 2 systems. One's called the AMEP, the Adult Migrant English Program, and the and it's just so. I thought there's no way I just couldn't work in that system, because it just would drive me mad. This isn't working. So you've got people.
Caesar, I have a question. Why not to disrupt that system? You have enough now knowledge, energy, resources, and you should disrupt the whole system. Start working tomorrow. We'll help you. We'll provide
You'll be the revolutionary
support and everything.
Even the revolution. This is, oh no, look, I've always been an early adopter. This, as I said, it's very exciting, because it just feels right. I have a quote that I use about education. It's a guy called John Ruskin, and he says that education doesn't mean teaching people what they do not know. It means teaching people to behave as they do not behave. So it's changing behaviour. If you want different results, you've got to do things in a different way. But I think, unfortunately, the system is set up because, like the AMEP system, it's set up so they get contracts. And they get contracts based on how many students they've got. So they're not really in a hurry, are they? It's set up. And they just don't know. They just don't know. But I did my English as a second language teacher training only a couple of years ago, and it was all this old-fashioned stuff. No, out. All right, so you're going to send me your book. I'll read that. What else? Go over the videos again.
And start to play, maybe watch again the second recording, because to play with the application, and especially there's a slight change in the application, how to use support in the native language. You see here the application on the left side. Do you see it? When you click on this application, it opens it up.
From Arcades S21.
Click on this button at the bottom, and you'll see that it is the latest version 5.5 2022. Now, if you
Yep.
click on this button,
The
question mark,
language bridge technology
Yes.
application
Yep.
starts with a words cloud and relaxing music, which activate left and right brain.
so that what it does. And now you can select a lesson. And for the beginning, usually for demonstration, I select lesson 10. So when you select the lesson, here what you have seen in the recording, it's word cloud or priming implicit memory. You understand that those words, you just look at them with those musical, tones. You remember them subconsciously. And then when those words would be found in the text, you will recognize them. Here is the translation into Mandarin, but you don't need it, so you click on this button at the top and go to the next question, next drill. And click on this button and this button.
Drill 2. Repeat
Okay.
aloud
So
the recorded text
what I
using
did was
intonation and
Excuse me.
I took that instruction in Chinese, copied that and put that in Google Translate.
No, that was
And got,
wrong, and that's why, no, you shouldn't do it. And there is a much simpler way, and that's why I will show you. So now
okay.
you see that here explanation what you do in this, and that is the main drill. In this drill, you simultaneously read, listen, and repeat. So I would not, to save time, I will try to turn it on.
lesson 10. Word.
Okay. Here you see the whole text. And here you highlight the text.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a bit cumbersome translating it because you had to go
And
download
then
Google
you
Translate.
open Google Translate in your, so you understand that when you copy this text, you shouldn't do it Chinese. And all the rest you can copy and go Google Translate and translate there.
Yep.
And you can translate either a single word or you can translate a paragraph or the whole text. And when you translate, you select the language which you need. Okay, so that's how it works. Now, very important part is I want to, this is reading, listening, and typing. You saw it in the recording. I want to show you this drill 7. Look, it's very important.
Yes.
Drill 7. Surprise drill. Here, you may paste any text from a document or internet to create your own lesson for speech shadowing. You may.
I would not show you the whole drill. You understand how it works. And here, I put it here. You can put it any text.
Yeah.
And
Would you recommend for beginners that the trainer, i.e. me, selects the text at that point?
first of all, for beginners, probably the best would be if a teacher does it for them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and here I've selected this poem, very emotional and very simple. And when you go to the next drill, you have a choice to select either this speech services or this. It automatically determines what you have on your tablet. You can buy even a better quality and it will also find it, and you can put it here. I put it just once, and then when I click,
I have a dream to live for, a dream to die with. I am a dreamer. I want to go to a place.
I want to do something. I want to make a mark. I am a dreamer.
I don't.
You understand that when, and now it's a bit too loud because I wanted you to hear the quality of this robot. It's nearly human quality. And with the same quality, it will read absolutely any text. So you have unlimited number of your own lessons, of your own texts. And then you understand that if they want to learn something, or if they have a homework and they have to prepare to interview or tell their story or anything, they can do it here. Or they can write in their native language, translate through Google Translate, and then put it here. So then the options are unlimited. And each one of them does one thing: trains your muscles. Language is a muscle, and you have to develop it to train it.
Oh, I was just thinking that the first group I will start with is the Vietnamese, because I've got a contact with a vocational place that is teaching English, but doing it the old way. So that would be a great way to start with the with the disruption, because I've already got connections to the Vietnamese community, the big community in Melbourne, so it would be a really good place to start. I think the as well as doing a print thing for marketing, would be to develop a webinar, a promotional webinar.
Yes.
And I will get some help with that. I wouldn't try and do that by myself, because that's not my area of expertise. I'm happy to speak on it, but as far as producing a webinar, I'd want it to look, be professional and appealing, and so
I can
all
send
right.
you a
Well,
few examples of my PowerPoints presentation. They will help you in preparing to the webinar. And it would be a great idea. And the more webinars you do, the more you put about it on internet, the greater the impact would be. Okay. Are you on LinkedIn or no?
I am on LinkedIn, but I do need to update my profile. It's a bit out of date, I think.
I put a lot of information on LinkedIn. There's a lot of posts, articles, and you can find there also very useful information.
And
So when
I
you
found,
update your LinkedIn, please send me the link to it or connect with me. Okay?
and I found Jeanette's website, so I'll have a look at that. As I said, I've downloaded the app. So at this stage, it's really me getting really, really knowledgeable about the whys and the wherefores, and then we can look at getting the word out in Australia. I can't believe that nobody else has come across this, but thrilled
Peter,
to.
it's not that simple to come across it. And more than that, Stephen Krashen, the famous linguist in the world, he lives in America, he was pretty close to it. And he even said that you cannot, once he said, you cannot teach English. You can only train it subconsciously, but he didn't know how. And more than that, then his next sentence is listen first and then speak, which is nonsense, because if you listen, then you get into conscious part of the mind and you cannot do subconscious, and so on and so forth. So it was not easy. And more than that, I discovered it by pure chance, as I've explained to you. I stumbled upon it. More than that, I think that I was given it. I was
Yes.
given it. You know from where? And I have 8 patents in United States in different areas. I have 2 patents on this technology, and I had about 7 patents in the former Soviet Union, because I am myself an immigrant. I live in the United States for 34 years, never visited Russia again, because I was really a refugee. Okay. And so it was not easy. I was given, I am lucky. And now I am trying to give it to the world and to disrupt the current situation. It's not easy because of the situation, they get a lot of money, $50 billion, the industry. And they get their money by using old, obsolete, non-effective, ineffective methods. They still get their money, and then they will protect their turf because they don't want to learn, and they cannot learn. They cannot. It's absolutely new information. You have to be prepared to it.
Yes, there will be opposition. There will be people saying, "Oh, what are you talking about?"
Yes, yes.
But the people who are ready, the people who are the innovators, the early adopters, they will, like we have, they will find it. The right people will find it. You can talk to your blue in the face with some people, and they either have so many barriers or whatever that you just, oh look, I'm not going to be able to work with you, and move on, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of finding the people who are, yes, let's do something different.
Who are ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's such a pleasure to meet you, Heather, and you obviously are open-minded person. And I think that what you'll find is that it'll be some trial and error first, when you're exploring. And certainly Arkady and I are always available, to answer questions. And he's 3 hours ahead of me. So to kind of keep that in mind. What time is it now for you, Arkady?
It's 5:06. So in your, it's I am 3 hours
so it's
ahead.
7:00. And it's 7:00 in the morning for you, Heather, now.
Yeah, but we can always do, of course, not